Welcome to Hidden Sparks. On Hidden Sparks, we explore the extraordinary changes from people who are ordinary individuals. And today, my guest will spark your interest. I am your host, Ambassador Jake Epelle. On today's Hidden Sparks, I have with me dear friends whose smile ignites change and very infectious. He is very humble, but very honored and revered within the sphere of his influence. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Taiwo Oyedele. I was very careful because I keep calling you Oye, Wale, and my colleagues will keep trying to. Even on phone, I do that. But Prof, welcome to Hidden Sparks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Like I said, your smiling is contagious. Your smile is contagious. But let's talk about your beginning. I am sure you are not like me. I was born with Bako spoon. Maybe yours is silver spoon, but
my own was no spoon at all.
Okay, so Prof, tell me about your beginning.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I was born in a very remote village, somewhere in Ondo State called Ikaramakoko. And we had very humble beginning in the sense that in the village we're all very poor. My family was one of the least poor, if there's anything like that, in the sense that we had a TV. In my village, there were just about 2 televisions. They were black and white. Those days, I have the cupboard and you lock it. You know, at 4 p.m., you heard the sound of NTA wanting to start their program. In that process, going through life, even though we didn't have a lot, we're very contented. And my parents, I'm always very grateful to them. My dad is late now, but they taught us values, of integrity, of hard work, of respecting others, and also believing in God. So those things we didn't value them at the time. It was almost like they were not allowing you the freedom. I remember a day I was walking on the street and I saw I think it was 5 naira. Maybe a little bit of money at that time. So I picked 5 naira. I was so excited, and got home and showed my dad, and then he gave me a dirty slap, and I was confused. And his point was, "Did you not think that somebody dropped it?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What will happen if the person got back there and they couldn't find it? Maybe that's the money for their meal. Maybe it's the money to buy drugs." And I started feeling bad. He asked me to go back and drop it where I picked it. This was many decades ago, but I still can't forget. So one thing led to another. Going to school was hard. It was meant to be tuition free, but you needed to pay a few things. And I remember 15 naira was all I needed in a term, and it was hard. So I had to be supporting people to go to farm, help them to clear the bushes, cultivate the ground. And I earned 5 naira every weekend, working the whole day on Saturday, because Monday to Friday you're at school, Sunday you go to church. Saturday was the only day I could work. Morning till evening was 5 naira, but then they gave you food. And sometimes when you're going home, they gave you 2 bags of yam. So I'll save 5 naira. And I said to myself, when it was time to write my final exams, secondary school exams, we needed 495 naira. And you can imagine how many times we do save 5 naira to get 495. The money wasn't enough. And luckily, I won a scholarship from my village association working in Ajakuta Steel. It's still one of the pains I feel today that Ajakuta Steel company is not working yet. So they came together and contributed 500 naira to give to the best students in the school, the village school, as a scholarship. And I was the best student. So that's how I won 500 naira.
Wow.
And paid 495 for my final exams. And I said to myself, you have to pass, because how do you then fail? Where would you find the 500 naira the next time? So, cut the long story short, I passed and then started my tertiary education. Decision about studying accounting was just an uncle that suggested accounting is good. While I was in my secondary school, they put me in sciences. My principal just said, if you're not doing sciences, who else will be in sciences? I enjoyed it, but I didn't see any path there for me. So going through tertiary institution was also difficult. So you have to do evening classes. You teach people a few things. They give you 200 naira. So those days we ate a lot of food without, they'll say, how about meat? You say, right? No pomo, no. Just take the meal and drink water. Um, my English was not as good as it is today when I
Wow.
graduated, and I didn't know it was bad because in the village they were not speaking English. Whatever I spoke, I was the local champion in the village. And then I got to Lagos, and then some people spoke fluent English, and I became ashamed of myself. I was very timid, and so what I did was I bought elementary English language books, and I was reading it and see because everybody knew I was smart, but just my English wasn't good. I got some app where you could learn pronunciation. Anyway, today sometimes when I speak, people say, which school did you graduate from in the UK? I say, which UK? If you know my village.
Wow. I was going there, Prof, because you are very articulate and
Thank you.
you can easily sell your views, opinions, and program. And you've done that excellently well. So some of these issues, and I'm going to go back to how you became an accountant, because it appears to me that your dad taught you early financial sense and integrity. Uh, would you say that that's one of the things that has spurred you to be a very well-known and professional accountant?
I will certainly say it's part of it. I remember when I was growing up, our dad would give us, sometimes 20 kobo, so to buy lunch at school. I would always not spend my money. I would be hungry and I won't spend the money. So I was always saving the money. I think I ended up saving about 15 naira. This was, early days of primary school was when I started that. So that continued in a way. When I got to secondary school and I was working every weekend to earn 5 naira, I was saving it. But the decision about my career wasn't my dad that said to me, you should be an accountant or a doctor. They just let me be. It was my principal that said I should be in sciences. But then being in the village, the only thing that occurred to me was that these people can be doctors, right? These people can be engineers. And I didn't like the doctors and engineers I saw in the village. So it was during Christmas that this uncle came from Lagos. And then I was still writing my JAM exams. And he said, what course are you going to study? I said, I don't even know, but I'm still thinking about it. He said, do accounting. And if you can pass the ICANN exam, it was the first time I heard ICANN. He said, if you can pass ICANN exams, you'll be a hot cake. I love challenges from when I was a kid. So because he said the exam is hard to pass, but if you pass it, you'll be a hot cake. For me, nothing else was necessary. I got what I wanted. So that was when I decided to switch to accounting. And I struggle with debit and the most elementary thing about debit and credit, I struggle with it. But in my usual approach to overcoming challenges, I got elementary books of accounting and I started from what you would have done in primary school. I learned that so quickly that by the second term of my year one, I was lecturing accounting students. Wow. So in fact, they started calling me professor from year one because at some point I'll be in the class, the lecturer will be there. If it's too complicated, they'll say, many of them will carry their bat and say, Prof will teach us later. They assume I'm already understanding it. If I'm not understanding it now, I know that I'm carrying not only my own fate, but the fate of other students. I go to the library and figure it out. In the evening, we do the classes. And that's one principle in life. If you are giving, your hand is always on top. Because I was always very interested in helping other students to pass. Passing and being the best student for me was just natural because I was giving them out of what I had. So I graduated best student in my school, got a few awards. And when I was writing my econ exams as well, I got a job as an intern at Liver Brothers, was what they called it at that time. It's now Unilever. I would trek we used to stay in Surulere. I'll get Mulwe, 5 naira to Ijora. I would trek from Ijora to Apapa because I didn't want to spend the little money I earned. Sometimes that trekking takes about 30 minutes. I'll wear slippers. When I get to the office, I'll clean. I usually get there very early so that people won't see me. I'll clean my legs, wear my shoe, and put the slippers inside nylon bag. and I'll be there before people that drove.
Wow.
So I did all of that, and I didn't know what I was doing was training myself in character, in competence, and resilience.
Wow.
And those things paid off eventually. So when I did my internship, I was saving the money for ICANN exams. So I wrote the ICANN exams with the money I saved until the final stage. The money got exhausted. And you know what happened? I won a prize in
Wow.
the penultimate stage. And once you won a prize, you can attend tuition for free for the next stage. That is how I wrote the final exam for free and
Wow.
then became a qualified accountant. So we got to camp because I was already qualified before doing my NYC. I got 4 job offers before leaving camp. So
Wow.
I was never unemployed for one day.
Prof, we'll get to that. That
Yes.
very interesting. I mean, I personally watched you on TV and when you were talking about tax and everything, and all of a sudden, the next moment, it was the president appointing you to come and practice what you
What
were
I've been
teaching.
preaching.
Yeah, you know. So my question to you, Prof, is the moment you got that appointment, was there any butterfly within you that tells you that, hey, maybe this is too much for me? Because I mean, you had a good job at Pricewaterhouse, you know, Pricewaterhouse should be paying me for this. And and then all of a sudden you got this appointment. Was there any fear within that said to you probably you will not be able to do it? Knowing fully well you are coming from a different direction, a private sector with a lot of integrity, competence, and all that, and now you found yourself in the public sector. What were your fears?
Yeah, so an interesting question actually. So first, resigning from PwC to do the work was easy. It was easy not because the sacrifices were easy. It was because I thought about the possibilities of what this would mean for the Nigerian people. I'd set up a foundation in 2015. Part of it is based on my background because of the struggle that I went through to write ordinary exams, find 500 naira. So I set up this foundation and we're sponsoring indigent kids to go to
Wow.
school. We usually go to very remote areas because that's where people don't remember. And at a point, I said to myself, the impact we're making is still in the thousands. We don't have resources to send like 1 million kids to school. And we know there are tens of millions of them. So I said to myself, if I find the opportunity to help government with policy, because policy at the government level affects millions of lives almost overnight, I said I would jump at it. So I was getting myself ready for when the opportunity will come. So before the announcement of my appointment, I've been discussing with the president's team. And that process was trying to be sure that they are serious about it, and it will not be a waste of my time, and that they will allow me to do the job professionally. So I got all those assurances. In fact, we even worked on some executive orders before I accepted my offer. And within 2 weeks, they turned it around. Before then, under the previous administration, it would be 2 years to get those things done. So I thought it's okay now to jump into it. So I resigned from PwC. Very significant financial sacrifice that I've made, but no regret, and I'm not complaining. So I got into this job. I wasn't expecting it was going to be easy. So I was prepared for anything that will come or that's likely to come, including people who will cook up story about you, because anytime you upset the status quo, people are benefiting from what is setting the country backwards. If you want to fix that, you step on their toes and they have resources to fight. So I was prepared for it, including misunderstanding and all of that. And that's why, in life, I also think that people see things from their perspectives, from their own viewpoint. So if you disagree with me, it doesn't mean that you hate me. Even if you hate me, it's your perspective. And therefore, my view is always to listen to people, like Stephen Covey said in his book. You should seek first to understand
To
and
be
then to be
understood.
understood.
Yes.
I try to understand people, where they're coming from, where is the perspective, without any serious emotions. And it's been very helpful. I think I was even underestimating the impact until, this is my current job. And a lot of people, will call me and say, that's a very good you know,
Including myself.
yes, disposition. They say this is so, don't lose that and be mindful of it. You know, very senior people, other people that worked in government, former ministers, former governors. I say, okay, maybe something to be grateful for.
Prof, let me put you on a pause and just said we're about to dig deeper into what I would describe as the personal journey of Professor Oyedele. Prof, tell me, what would you say are the most impactful, maybe significant personal or professional obstacles that you have faced that have shaped what you're doing and what you will do going forward?
Yeah, you know, clearly the biggest obstacle is it's difficult to swim against the tide. So what you find generally, and I will not blame Nigeria for this or Nigerians. I think it's generally everywhere. We saw the election of Donald Trump recently. So people flow with the narratives. And my approach towards professional career is to always be very objective, be very balanced, and be very honest. And sometimes that gets you into a lot of trouble because you're saying things that people do not like to hear. They will come at you, they will attack you. And sometimes it could be that the people you are trying to call out are the powers that be. I remember there was a day I wrote an article in the newspaper and I was criticizing how we're managing the pricing of PMS by the PPP area at that time. And the fact that I thought there was lack of transparency. And usually when I write, I support it with facts. And they were not very happy. So there was a job that my firm was doing for them and for the government, and we were fired. There was a day I wrote an article, and you know, someone I will not name was heading a government agency that was regulating professional practice, and he threatened to withdraw the license of my firm. And I was scared because it's not my firm; I'm just a partner there. I didn't want my own work to affect the livelihood of more than 1,000 other staff. But those things, we always manage them and never allow those things to silence you because you live for a purpose that is bigger than your life. So I'll say that. The other one is sometimes there's so much uncertainty in life about the direction you want to travel, about how things are evolving, and how do you prepare yourself. So in doing that, you always have to plan for plan A. It's always good to be optimistic about life, but also be realistic. So plan A, plan B, plan C. If this doesn't work, what else would I do? I do the same thing with my career, with investment, even when you have friends. For example, one of the advice I give to young people in particular is have no expectations of anyone and never feel entitled. I actually feel like my parents don't even owe me anything. So when my parents, right, growing up, gave me 20 naira, I was grateful. Today I'm married, I don't feel entitled to my wife has to cook for me. So when my wife cooks, I am grateful to her. If she's not around and I cook, I would also cook for her as well. And that's where I'm bringing up my kids. Right?
All the traditional people watching us
They won't like it.
will roast you.
Yes, they will roast me, exactly. They will roast me. You know, interestingly, for example, for my kids, I wasn't a believer in you go abroad to go and have a kid so you can have a citizen. I said, which citizen? Am I a citizen? You know, so even though we could afford it, we did not do that. So today I have just my Nigerian passports. I don't have any other passports. And I said, if everybody was running away from the US after they were colonized and they were in poverty, it wouldn't be the greatest country in the world today. Some people stayed back and built their country. I'm not accusing anyone who has left. People are within their right to relocate abroad, but not all of us will relocate. Some of us have to stay back and help the country to evolve.
Prof, anyone watching you, good looks, very intelligent, and you have a good job, and probably some money to back
To
that
show
up.
for it.
Yeah, and the person is saying, "Are you sure this man is taken? Is he married? Are you married? Do you have children?"
Yes. I'm married, happily married. So I got married about 14 years ago. I have 2 kids, a lovely wife, and I have a very happy family. So in fact, one of the reasons why it's easy for me to take on the challenges of my current role is because I have a very supportive family. So anytime I'm getting home, I already start smiling because I know that home is where I'll get all the relaxation, the
It's
welcoming,
comfort
the
zone.
love. God bless you. So my wife in particular has been extremely wonderful.
Let me ask you, has the
Yes.
president ever called you and asked you to change direction in the cost of the reforms that you're trying to do?
Not once, either directly or indirectly. This is one credit I'll give to this president. He has not dictated any single thing to us up to today.
How?
In fact, the membership of the committee was left to me. So you remember when my appointment was announced, it was my only name they announced. And someone said, how is there
So
a
you chose your
committee?
team.
I chose my team and they allowed me do that. So the work we have done, and that's why I keep saying to people, it's unfair to be blaming this president because he didn't dictate to us. We're just Nigerians who came together, debated issues affecting our country, used data and submission from everybody, and we proposed. We're not perfect. So if our proposal is not perfect, let's have an engagement that says, I hear you, but we can make it better. Don't say, oh, it's North versus South. Oh, no, they want to regionalize Nigeria. No, they want to take all the revenue to Lagos State. Tinubu wants to take this from farmers. But as a leader, he's taking it in good faith, knowing that reforms are generally not easy anywhere in the world.
Prof, you have literally put forward your vulnerabilities. You're
Yes.
transparent about your weaknesses. I want to know, is there any time that you felt like throwing in the towel? I know do again. I'm just moving on. Have you ever experienced that? Whether
No,
in your career,
no,
in the reforms that you're going through, with all the bashing, you never felt like
no,
quitting?
never.
What would you say to someone who wants to quit? Maybe
Yeah.
his job, career, who is frustrated and think that there's no way out of the
Yeah.
woods.
One principle that I work with is that if it's easy, then you just need an average person. The fact that you want to stand out, the fact that you believe you're a person of integrity, of character, and someone who is patriotic and you love your country and you're willing to make sacrifices for your country. The amount of financial sacrifices I've made is not something I can even say on TV. It's huge. So I won't allow someone abusing me to be the reason why I then give up. So what will be the essence of the sacrifices? My time, even the emotional challenges you go through. Because while I have the thick skin, sometimes my wife will read messages on social media and she will feel bad. And the reason why she feels bad is she knows that we're making a sacrifice every single day in our house. We're saying, how can we help Nigeria? And then she's surprised that people are abusing, how I say, don't take it personal. They don't know all this our story and they don't need to know it. So I always say to people, don't give up. I don't give up. I take my time to think about what I want to do. I think about, like I said before, plan A, plan B, plan C. So I'm not giving up. I didn't think about giving up. I had no regret. I did it. The same thing with my career journey. One thing I hold on to as a philosophy is give everything and every day your very best. So that if eventually things don't turn out as you expected them to be, you have no regrets, right? The only reason why people regret is, I wish I had done it before. But because I gave it my best, I'll say maybe it wasn't meant to work. So I have no regret. I just live one day at a time, giving it my best always.
Who would you describe, or what would you describe as what has guided you in the most difficult times, either in your career and family? And I'm going to delve into your faith because you talk as a man of faith. But who would you ascribe to?
Yeah, so interestingly, I don't have a single person because my principle is such that I follow values and attributes. So if I like you because you are honest, right? If you turn out to be someone who, for example, you don't respect other people, you can be honest and not respect people, right? You are condescending. I will not like that part about you, but I hold on to the fact that you're a honest person. So you are not my model, right, or role model, but I love the way you are honest. So the way I have lived my life is to pick values from different people. So when it has to do with, business and career, I have people that have done well. They may not be honest people, maybe they're even corrupt, but when they take on a task, they do it well. When it comes to your faith, I have people I believe in, right? So I have most people don't even understand the words of God. They misinterpret it, they manipulate it. So I can tell whether this is the person I want. When it comes to politics and governance, there are people I appreciate. You know, that when it comes to speaking to the public, Barack Obama, for example, I love the way he's always very organized in his thought process. He's very compelling when he speaks. The way he uses body language, I've studied all of it. It doesn't mean that I like the fact that you say people can be confused about their agenda, right? So, in a nutshell, I do not have one person as a role model. I have a lot of people that I've picked one or two things from and continue to learn from them.
You surround yourself, and I must say that coming into your office and to do this interview, there's no air of importance. You surround yourself with very young, energetic people, and I saw a couple of them around. What would you say to the Gen Z who probably will be watching this? How best that they can conduct themselves and make the most of what you have made most of?
Yeah. Interesting one. My office in Lagos is even less than half of where we are now. And if, I remember the first day I had an interview was by BBC, and they said, your office is modest. So I said, so in life, I believe that your importance should not be attached to things that are physical, right? If you have a large office and it's gold plated, it doesn't mean that you are now important, right? By the way, it's okay to have comfort. My principle is you just need things that are functional. When I became a partner at PwC, so this is the highest level of the organization, I was driving a Toyota Corolla. And many people say, you cannot be driving a Toyota Corolla at your level. You need to go and buy a Ford. I said, so this my Toyota Corolla, is it not moving again? They said, yes. I said, if I have a meeting in Ikeja, you can get me there. I said, don't worry about me. So my principle of minimalism, just enough that you need. And it's also partly driven by the fact that I see a lot of poverty around. So in one of the scholarship trips that we had a couple of years back, we got to a place in Osun State. And there was a woman that they had sent the son home because they couldn't afford 3,500 naira to pay for whatever they needed to write the exams. We didn't know they had lost the dad like 2 weeks before. So we got to the school, asked a question about what they needed, and we awarded scholarship. And this boy got 5,000 naira. Not a lot of money, but it was enough to pay for the exam and with a little. So they called the mom, and she came and broke down in tears because that's the first time in their entire life that somebody thought about them to help them like that. So I'll say to myself, why would I then have to set up an office and spend 50 million naira when I know somebody can't find 5,000 naira to go to school? So maybe if I do an office that costs me 500,000 naira, I can have a lot less to help other people. Every day I go back home to sleep, I sleep soundly knowing that I help other people. I don't sleep soundly because my office is the most expensive in Abuja. So and I'm bringing young people on board, female, and it's my idea of inclusivity. And also because what we are trying to do is we are trying to set the future of the country. So you need the experience of the older people. So you find our community, you see people of different ages there. But then when you are building the future, you need the people that have the highest stake in that future, and they're the young people. And by the way, every single person that we appointed and those who work with me in the office got here on merit. And you know the story about that is that on the average, and I'm not trying to, I think that women are smarter than men.
Well, Prof, that's true to an extent, but I can describe you as a he for she.
Yes, I am. A big one.
How do you set boundaries around yourself so that those who will look at your smile and look at your good looks and your smartness, it doesn't become a trap for your own moral integrity?
Yeah, very good point. I think, again, it goes back to the values, which I was lucky that these values were imbibed in me from when I was a little boy growing up. But the other interesting aspect, since you asked a question about women, is that I grew up with female siblings. And I felt like, even though I wasn't the eldest, I was like the second, I felt like I had an obligation to protect them.
We do all have that.
Being the only boy. So when it was time for them to start dating, a lot of men broke their hearts. And every time I wish they could tell me so I could go and fight. Whether the person will even beat me up is a different thing, but let me just try and defend and protect my sisters. So that's stuck with me. And in the process, I thought that one, you should respect everybody, man, woman, old, young, regardless of race. You must respect people because they're people. And this is regardless of whether they're your driver. For example, I won't even ask my driver to come and be waiting endlessly. I feel like I owe it to my driver if I say come by 10 to be ready by 10. So some people will take that for granted. Housemaid, I respect everyone. So, and therefore, when I have people around me as my team, male, female, young, old, I also respect. And respecting them also means you must respect boundaries, right? There's nothing wrong, especially when I was a single person. So there's nothing wrong in having an interest in another person or them having an interest in you, but just respect boundaries. I always say to people that when it comes to this issue about abuse, particularly between gender, I'll say you have to respect common sense. It's common sense. So if you're trying to hug someone and they don't want to be hugged, right? You should backtrack and you should never try it again next time. Offering to hug them is not a crime if it's something that is common in your climb. You won't go to some Middle Eastern countries and be hugging the person of the. In fact, you won't even stretch your hand to handshake them. So, understanding the culture, the environment, it's very important. I do that a lot. If I'm going to any country, I remember the first time I traveled to China, I read so much about them. I knew where you should be seated when you get to a room. The fact that you shouldn't sit before the person hosting you. When you are speaking, you don't cross your leg. This thing we just do easily in Nigeria. Yeah. It's offensive. If you do it in Japan, if you get into a taxi and you offer a tip, it's an embarrassment to them. You've just insulted them. Whereas in the US, you don't give a tip, they are cursing you because they expect you to give them a tip. The world is so diverse. Yeah. The world is, you speak to someone who is Indian and say, do you understand? And the person does like this. You keep explaining, but he just said yes. Indians say yes like this. The rest of us say yes like this. When I say this, I mean no. So understanding people, their peculiarities help a lot. So I would encourage people to do that as well.
Prof, that's very interesting. And we seem to have a lot in common. I was on my way to Japan. I had to study how Japan people greet and the fact that you don't abuse time. If you give a Japanese woman, say, in fact, how a Japanese woman would test your commitment to relationship is that she would say to you, let's meet and have coffee at 7:03. If you don't show up by 7:03, that's the end of that relationship.
You have no respect for that relationship. Yeah.
So that you're so absolutely correct. But let's talk about what can ignite the change. What is it that can spark people to aim for the highest? And I think your story resonates with that. So how would you say that your personal story, whether your success and setback, have shaped the present and the future of Professor Oyedele?
Yeah. So I think first is people need to try and get an understanding of their environment. So when I see young people who don't listen to the news, for example, sometimes I feel disappointed. I sponsor a number of people to school as we speak, including university. And a few of them, I just ask them, are you aware of the student loans fund scheme? And they're not aware. Like, I'm not in school. I don't need school fees loan, and I'm aware. And you're a student and you're poor. And you can't, if you only just watch NTA News or Channels or Arise or any of them, this is news that comes up like every other day. You should know. When you don't have knowledge, the difference between a poor person and a rich person is the knowledge and the information that is available to them that they act upon. So trying to get that information and knowledge is the responsibility of everyone. It's your responsibility to go on social media and read what is going to enrich your life. Not looking for half-naked women or somebody who is trying to do some funny stuff, right? Entertainment is okay, but that's not where you spend all your time. Go on LinkedIn and read a few things. Read profile, read biographies. Someone like Tony Olumelu, someone like Bill Gates, Dangote, right? So after doing that, then you need to empower yourself, which means having that knowledge is not enough. I need to develop the skills. I wasn't appointed to this role because they like my name or my face, right? It's because they think that this guy has something to offer. So make sure you're a person that has something to offer. How do I have something to offer? By empowering myself. And I'm not talking about certificate. Nigerians overlove certificates. Some people have 3 PhDs. They can't figure out anything in real life. So I'm a fan of do the minimum education that you need to do. If you want to be a
You're
professor,
probably
that's fine.
a fan of Sabi tickets.
Yes, Sabi tickets, yes. Then just getting things done. You can fix stuff. It might be to take a course online for 3 months. Another one is 6 months. When I graduated, while I was waiting for NYC as an accounting graduate, I was so restless. I went around. I was looking for a small business I can prepare financial statement for. So I went to Mandilas in Lagos. So this was me trekking around. I'll enter a shop. I'll study whether the owner of the shop is friendly, if they are smiling, if they're having a bad day. If I think that their, disposition is friendly, I'll pretend like I want to buy something in a calculator. I'll strike a conversation. If the person is welcoming, I said to this man, I said, by the way, do you have account? He was confused. He said, why are you asking whether I have an account? I said, I'm an accountant. And I think if you have an account, it will help you. You know whether you are making profit or loss. If you want to take a loan to expand your business, it will be easy. And I convinced the guy and I said, I'll do your account for you. And we did not talk about price. And the guy said, okay. On my own, I was finding money for transport the day I could find, the day I could not find. If I need to trek, I spent more than 2 weeks. I did inventory count. Long and short of it, I did financial statement for this guy. And I went and I didn't have a computer. I went to a business center, printed it, bound it, and I think like 3 copies. I went and gave to the guy. And I said, your accounts are ready. That was the first time he's been doing the business for more than 20 years. He never had an account. So he was so fascinated that I brought an account. He quickly sat down and was flipping through. He got to the income and expenditure statement and said, Taiwo, is this the amount I spend on newspapers? Every day he would buy like 6 or 7 newspapers and just drop them. They were not reading them. He said, this is the amount I spend on newspaper. I said, yes. He said, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? I said, I did not make a mistake. He said, from now on, only 1 newspaper. He gave me 20,000 naira. This was 1999.
Wow, that was a lot of money.
I got so excited. I said, let me go to a church. I went to a church in Mafoluku. I said, at least pastors won't send me away. I sat down at the service. After service, I wanted to know who the pastor was. Of course, the person that preached. After the service, I just walked forward. Pastor, my first time in your church, of course, pastor will be happy. By the way, I'm an accountant. I'm wondering whether you have accounts. Pastor said, we account to God. We don't. So I said, Pastor, God does not even need your account to know what you're doing. So the reason why you prepare account is because you want to be organized. You want to know how well the church is doing. You may have a building project. You may want to support less privileged people. I convinced the pastor. And the second account I did was for a church.
Wow.
So, I got busy until the day they said, come for service. So I suppose the point I'm trying to make there is, there are people who graduate today, first class accounting, they can't figure out how to start an income statement. Nobody gives you anything of value because you have a certificate. People give you things of value because you have value to give back. And you can only give back from what is within you by empowering yourself. And the other one is position yourself for opportunities. You may be the smartest person. If you don't see anything on social media, you're not on TV, you've never written an article, nobody will know they are the smartest. You are here now because before I met you physically, I've listened to so many of your interviews. You build your credibility from what you stand for. I know your principles, So when you do that, you position yourself for opportunities. So when they're looking for someone to do something, they'll say, I know this guy. And then one thing leads to another. These are principles that work anywhere in the world, whether it's in Nigeria or the US or Togo or Ghana. They work every time, and they will continue to work.
Well, Prof, thank you for your kind words. I was looking for who is he talking about. But tell me, Prof, um, what what kind of future would you want to see? What kind of Nigeria would you want to see?
Yeah, yeah.
Present and the future.
Yes. The present day Nigeria gives me a lot of concern because I feel like it's a country that is so richly blessed and has no business being a poor country. I feel like we are failing the 100 million, over 100 million of our citizens who live in multidimensional poverty. I knew what it felt like waking up in the morning, especially as a parent, and your kids stare at you without saying a word. You know they're asking where breakfast will come from, and you are clueless where the next meal will come from. That is not where our people should be. So I think that the Nigeria of today is not working for us. And that's why, in my own little way, I'm making the commitment to do my own part. Other people are doing their own part. We want more people to come on board. We can transform our economy in our lifetime to one of the greatest countries in the world. So, and that leads me to your second part of the question is, which future do we envisage I would like to see? I would like to see a country where people get things based on their competence, based on their knowledge, based on their values, not the person that they know. One of the biggest pressure I'm having to face in my current role is all manners of people send CVs and they want me to send their CVs to get a job somewhere for them. And it's hard because when you don't do that, they think you don't want to help them. Whereas I know one of the reasons why Nigeria is struggling today is we have a lot of wrong people in very important positions who got there because they got a memo from someone, they got a business card from someone, and they were appointed and they had no idea what to do with the job. When they are messing up on the job, it reflects on all of us negatively. So my entire career, all the jobs I got, nobody helped me. I don't believe in helping people to get a job. I believe in helping people to be
have
ready.
access to your job.
God bless you. So you can get it for yourself. So, in that regard, I want to see a Nigeria where the son and the daughter of the most vulnerable, poorest person, most illiterate in the remotest of villages, we have the same aspiration and possibility to be Nigeria's president, CEO of a bank, and we should provide those opportunities. Once we allow that to happen, everything else is secondary. Like the Bible says, every other thing shall be added unto you.
Prof, they're asking me to hurry, but I can't leave without asking you the question. You have set the stage, did the policy. You can be referred to as the Uncle Sam of Nigeria. Now, tell me, are you afraid that any of your reform may fail?
Yes, I'm afraid of that. And that's because the reforms, as you would expect, is not entirely within my control. Not even entirely within the control of Mr. President. There are so many things where we require a lot of actors. There are things the president has to do, some ministers have to do, agencies of government have to do, sub-national have to do, even local governments. You can't control all of that. But I think if you focus on the things you can control, which is, let's set the framework, let's have the policy. Let's work on how best to implement it and be very practical about it. And then, if you aim for 100%, and that could be the sky, if you end up with 60%, you have made significant progress from zero. So I am confident, and where we even are today, we've implemented some of our reforms already. I am confident that a higher percentage of our reforms will be properly implemented and the Nigerian people will feel the positive impact. And realistically, not all of our reforms will be implemented. There will be some. And in fact, we're just discussing it before we started this interview with my team, that we have to do like a documentary of everything, including a comprehensive report that will have a section that says, we have done all of this, but there are these other ones we were not able to complete, or that we couldn't even start. These are considerations for future purposes. And maybe someone will pick it up in another 2 years, 3 years, and take it forward. That's how nations are built, one step at a time.
We're out of time, Prof. But what if
Yes.
you become the Joseph of this generation who told his dream and was told to go and
To go and
implement
implement.
the dream? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Professor Taiwo, a dear friend of mine, always smiling, no dull moment, brilliant but humble. This is where we draw the curtain on hidden sparks. This is everyday people making extraordinary change. I remain Ambassador Jake Epelle. Thank you.